Oh, sorry about that, everyone. I was muted. Let me just start over. I'm really sorry about that. Okay, welcome everyone. Really, once again, really sorry about that. Welcome everyone to the keynote session and AMA with Eddie Jaoude. So Eddie is an open source full stack and DevRel expert with experience in JavaScript, TypeScript, SQL, NoSQL, automation testing, and DevOps. So he's pretty much experienced with most technologies, you can say. The foundation of Eddie's tech ethos is open source, as he believes there's something in it for everyone, no matter your role in the tech community. You will always find something that you can get involved with and learn from open source. Given that there is no gatekeeping in open source, it fosters a real sense of collaboration, communication, and career development. These are Eddie's beliefs and thoughts. Eddie is one of the first GitHub Stars of the Year, winning it in 2020 last year, and being one of the 30 people to be recognized with the award among 55 million people. So that is a really huge achievement. Uh, Eddie always believes in collaboration first and code second. You can learn more about it at Eddie's community, Eddie Hub. So Eddie has built a wonderful and inclusive community called Eddie Hub. You should definitely check it out. We can drop the links for that in our Discord. Now, enough from me. Let's give it up for the person you're all here for. Eddie, please take it away.
Thank you so much for that amazing intro. Wow, that was brilliant. I really appreciate it. It's great to be here and great to geek out with you all. I'm super excited. So make sure I see lots of questions in the chat. Ask as we go along. I'll try and answer them. If I don't get round to them, we'll do them at the end. We've got a huge Q&A time at the end, and I'm going to try and make that as big as possible because it's my favorite section. So thank you so much for that intro. I really, really appreciate it. I'm still so shocked to be, GitHub Star of the Year. That's, as you said, 1 out of 55 million. I'm still super shocked. When I hear that, I think, wow, what did I do? And I want to share that with you. What did I do and how to stand out? So I'm going to start right at the beginning. So let's go back. Would you all believe me if I said my parents would not let me do computer science at university because they said computers were just a fad and would not be around very long and it's just for gaming? They said I had to do one of the traditional degrees, whatever that means. I wasn't going to be a lawyer because I can't read, and I wasn't going to be a doctor because I don't like needles and blood. They knew I like to take things apart and break things, so engineer it was. Okay, you might believe that part, but you won't believe that there were 1 or 2 coding modules in my electronic engineering degree, and I really hated coding. Really, really hated coding. I did every effort to avoid the coding modules. And if we fast forward a few years, I came out of university with an electronics engineering degree, knowing 2 things for certain. 1, I didn't want to be an electronic engineer. That was a waste of 4 years and 2 degrees. And I also knew I didn't want to code, which might be surprising to hear. People can relate in the chat. That's awesome. Do write in the chat as we go along. That allows me to tailor my talk for you. So I'm just super, super excited. So Ashwin, thank you so much for that. And so after university, a friend from university went back home to Hong Kong, and I went back to the UK just outside London. And they said, do you want to attend a hackathon with them? And they were like halfway around the world. And they shared their screen on our terrible connection that we had back in the day. This is probably going back 18 years or so. But oh my world changed. Why didn't they show us this at university? Why was building something like a web page not covered at uni? We were doing things like sort data that a database or dot sort and whatever coding language you're doing could do for us anyway. We're not going to write all these sorting algorithms unless you're, deep into databases and sorting algorithms. But most of the time, as a web dev, full stack dev, mobile developer, whatever it is, you're not going to be doing that. And I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more. So let's jump forward even a few more years when I get started into open source. And my first open source contribution was fixing a typo. And in my defense, there was no Git, no GitHub back then. Every project seemed to have its own hosted server, which used CVS, or if it was super advanced, would use the SVN server, which is like the older version of Git. And oh wow, they were good for the time, but wow, they were terrible. We had to even request access to their servers with our SSH keys and sign various forms and all the rest. And every project and every server had different workflows and coding styles. And it was definitely a different landscape back then. As we're all friends here, going back to my first and second open source contributions, a full disclosure, but don't tell anyone, it's going to be a secret between you and me. My second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th contribution were all fixing typos too. But that's how we all get started. And to be honest, I welcome typo fixes. Yes, I don't welcome typos, I welcome typo fixes. And you'll find them in many of my projects. Remember the story about not being a lawyer because I can't read? Well, I can't write either. So I welcome those improvements because I really believe that they add value. On a side note, if there's a typo in English and English is your first language or you're really good at it, you'll probably understand it and you'll just move on and know what's going on or know what the word is. But if it's not your first language or you're not very good at English, the person might think, well, what is this word? Is it a new word that I need to learn? And spend time looking it up. And it's not very inclusive. It's not very nice. So I welcome those. So look at my projects, got loads of them, Eddie Hub or on my personal GitHub account. Fix typos, definitely get a big thumbs up from me. And that's how we all get started, really. No one comes in and fixes a bug or writes some automated tests, adds a new feature. We all get started understanding the workflow. And if we get time and that's something you would like to see, we can work through that workflow and do some examples. Awesome. Have you all fallen asleep already? Write hey in the chat or write open source in the chat just so I can make sure you're all still awake. I want to make sure you're all still awake because we're going to be geeking out at the end, answering your questions and geeking out on whatever you want. I'm here to help. So it's great. Yes, hi, open source, hi, everything, brilliant, great. Okay, a few people are awake. Let's see as we come into the more recent time, hopefully you'll wake up a bit more as well. So open source back then for me was a hobby. I did it because I loved learning, collaborating with people, sharing what I knew, and of course, coding. Conferences, hackathons, meetups are where I came alive. I mean, now it's more virtual, but it's great because I get to connect with people all around the world, people I never would have met in person. So this is also super awesome. I was definitely regular and consistent. My weekly kind of meetup in the evening or hackathon on the weekend or conference on the weekend, I was regular and consistent. And then GitHub came around, and as it became more well-known, when I applied for jobs, I could basically send them my GitHub link. I could skip a lot of the lengthy interview process. So I mean 3 or 5 stages. I could usually jump just straight to the last stage. And what happened next made my life even easier. Companies and clients started contacting me via my GitHub account to join their company and projects. Paid. I was like, okay, awesome. I'm going to give you examples. These are UK high street banks, government departments in the UK, and even big places that you might be familiar with. You might have heard of this small company called Facebook, GitHub, Google, etc. So if you want to climb the corporate ladder or be a freelancer, consultant like me, open source and communication is what helped me achieve this. You may be thinking, Eddie, why didn't you work for one of the FANG companies? Well, these came at the wrong time for me. I had left the kind of corporate rat race and I was doing freelancing, aka consulting. So doing over 10 years. So as these came about, it was the wrong time for me. But nothing wrong with that. I was able to make the decision. I had the luxury to be able to make the decision. I want you all to have that luxury too. I mean, to be able to pick my clients, pick my projects, it's just amazing. If I want to save for something, I can work harder. If I want to have some downtime, work-life balance, like I am now. So I'm in the UK. As of a couple of weeks ago, I'm now in Portugal. So not in my usual office, not my usual setup. Because I want I still want to work and work from the beach of a laptop, but have that work-life balance. And, different times in your life, different times of the year, you want to work harder. Other times you want to work less. And different times in your life, depending on family and so forth, you want to, again, work harder or not work as hard, depending. It's amazing to have that flexibility. To give you a concrete example, I'm currently working with a client called DataStax. They had a workshop yesterday, and do connect with their awesome team and their cool project. If you build something using their NoSQL cloud solution, AstroDB, let me know what you build. Love to see your projects because I'm currently building something using their projects as well. Right, back to what I was saying. So I feel that I went from being an open source hobbyist to an open source career. And not to sound cheesy, but I love what I do and I get paid to do my hobby. And I want this for you. So this is where you have to think about your questions for now or for later on. How can I help you achieve that? I'm looking lots of open source in the chat. Okay, brilliant. So we've got people that are awake. That's great. Aishan, Smash, hopefully I pronounced it right. Jay, Neil, awesome that you're all awake. Lily, brilliant. And I can see some familiar names and I see some new ones too. So that is great. I can't wait to geek out with all the people that I usually geek out with and geek out with new people as well. With all that said and out of the way, how can you achieve this in less time than me? Because you can learn from my mistakes. I have 2 regrets in my career that I want to share with you. The first one is not starting open source sooner. And I can never change that. No matter how hard I work, I cannot start it sooner. And the second one, can you guess what it is? I gave you a clue. I gave you the first one. Can you guess what the second one is? Write something in the chat. What's my second biggest career kind of mistake that I can't change? No matter how hard I work, I can't change that. Let me know in the chat. Then we can see who is actually awake. Not doing freelancing. Oh, that's a good one. I think I did freelancing at the right time. So I did freelancing about 4 to 5 years of experience. And for me, that was the right time. That worked out well. That was when I had been doing a bit of open source already and people started contacting me. And that's when I thought, right, I'll do freelancing. But you're right. If I hadn't have done it then that might have been in my top 3 regrets. But luckily, that is one thing I don't regret. I think I did it at the right time. I got a bit of experience that I needed, how to manage projects and so forth. Your uni. See, uni, I came out with a massive amount of debt, and that I'm a little bit upset about that. But to be honest, although uni didn't help me in my career at all directly, indirectly it did, because it really helped me get a bit more organized. I was very disorganized. I didn't manage any of my bank accounts or anything. So uni just at least helped me do that. So it was an expensive lesson, but I can still see the positive from that. Okay, thank you all so much for trying. I'm going to put you out of your misery and let you know what the answer is. The answer is not sharing content sooner. I know that might scary, but just to clarify what I mean by sharing content, I mostly mean learning in public and documenting your journey. And I've got an action at the end of this talk that you can do to start that, and then so you can stand out from the crowd and get the benefits. There's so many benefits we're going to get into in a minute. And you're in the chat, you're typing in the chat. I already feel you're kind of stepping in that direction already. If you're communicating in the chat, then that is great. People are getting familiar with your name. So as I mentioned, I recognize some of the name in the chat from other live streams that I've done on my channel, other people's, or Twitter or whatever. That's why it's really important to have the same name on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, GitHub, so people can, when you pop up on their radar, they can relate to it and go, oh, I spoke to that person on that live stream. They were really interesting. Let me kind of continue that conversation. Make it easier for people. Or if you DM someone, and someone who gets a lot of DMs might think, oh, I've got so many DMs. They might flick through and see if there's anything they recognize. If they recognize you, they're going to look at yours first. And if you have a different name or different profile picture, they might skip over you without realizing. So make it easier for you. And, don't forget, there are my clients and other companies in the chat here as well. And all your peers are going to be working at other companies as well too. So if your CV ever goes across their desks or the hiring manager says, hey, do you know person X, Y, and Z? And if the name rings a bell because they've seen it on Twitter, you shared some good information, they say, oh yeah, I did. They seem really nice. Let's get them in and have a chat with them, however you do it. My point is, make it easier for people to understand and know who you are. Okay, so as I mentioned, I mostly mean learning in public is, documenting your journey. And this will not only help you learn faster, and it will also help you communicate better and help others. So therefore, you come on their radar and you stand out from the crowd. If there are only 2 things you take away from this talk today, Let it be those two things. And you can start today. And like I said, you're probably doing it already. You're probably on Twitter. You're probably doing stuff on GitHub. You're doing it without probably even realizing. But do it consistently. Don't try and do 100 or 200 commits this weekend and do nothing for 6 months, and do loads of tweets today and nothing for 6 months. Do it consistently and little and often. You can definitely tell this is live because I can't even speak. How's everyone doing? Everyone still awake? Okay, hopefully everyone's still awake. So I treat open source and content creation, and for those of you who know me will know this. Who's heard the brushing my teeth story? Brushing our teeth in the story. Oh, you're writing yep. Okay, you've heard it. So for those of you who haven't heard it, I'm going to quickly go over it. I know it sounds a bit weird, but let me explain. You don't go to bed at night thinking, oh my God, I've got to brush my teeth. What a mission. No, you just get on and do it without even thinking. And if you miss a day by falling asleep on the couch watching TV, you're not going to wake up and all your teeth have fallen on the floor. But over time, over 1 month, over 1 year, the benefit of brushing your teeth twice a day is huge. And the same goes for open source and content creation. Don't overthink it. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be good enough. And over time, as you do it little and often, the benefit will add up. You'll appear on people's radar. People will then start recognizing you. Then they'll start following you. People will start sharing your content. You'll start growing. You'll start learning because you get feedback from different people. You don't have to take all the feedback. You can choose the one you want. But at least it's good to be aware of certain feedback, and then you can decide if you want to action it or not. I think that's really important. So little and often, I think, is really, really important. That's something we encourage at the Eddie Hub. If we get time at the end, I can talk a bit more about what we do at Eddie Hub community. Actually, you know what? Let me talk a bit about it now. So contributing to open source is great. And remember, it's not just about code, though. It's about adding value. And what we say in the Eddie Hub community, as mentioned at the beginning, is collaboration first, code second. Because when contributing to a project, we raise an issue first to collaborate. We make changes via a pull request, which is effectively an issue with some changes attached to it. I purposely didn't say code. And then we collaborate again on the changes. And the smaller the changes, the more we collaborate. Have you ever seen the pull request of 100 file changes? It's just looks good to me, merge it in. Whereas if it's, 5-line changes, there's usually 10 comments. It's because people can collaborate and the quality is a lot better. And if we throw in GitHub discussions in there as well, there's even more collaboration. And that's why communication is so important, and it's so hard, and it's very hard to measure. That's why when I hire for my clients, I go to people's GitHub, but I don't look at what you think I'm looking for. I'm not looking, how amazing is your code today? I'm actually looking how you communicate and collaborate with other people. Are you friendly? Are you professional? Are you clear? Or is there 101 kind of conversations back and forth? What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? It's just is it clear? Can you actually have a conversation on the important parts? And that's really important because that's hard to test in an interview. Your technical skills are a lot easier to test. And when I look at people's GitHubs and their technical stuff, I look at, is what they've done today better than it was 3 months ago? It doesn't matter how good it is today, as long as it's better, it shows the person is still learning. And so it's really important to get involved in the conversation on GitHub. Oh, we have a question. And we have Carl here as well. Big shout out to Carl. Carl's been doing a lot of amazing work on the Eddie Hub API, using data stacks as well, doing loads of NPM packages, combining it into our API. Again, we can geek out about this after the talk or at the end if we get time. Loads of awesome stuff, automation. It's just automated testing of Cucumber, being really, really great. Big shout out to Carl. So I mentioned GitHub discussions, lots of conversations. But okay, question. Ashwin, let's have a look at your question. I see a lot of content creators posting the same content, say YouTube video launch notifications in almost all socials. That can get annoying if I'm following them everywhere, isn't it? I completely agree. You're absolutely right. And I'm guilty of this. I used to do this a lot. I used to post the same content on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, etc., Instagram. And then I stopped doing that. And I might have recently made a few mistakes and done that as well. But you're right, that is really annoying. I'm trying to separate out my content. So my Twitter is more, I think it's important. People go through a learning curve and they do what works for them. And the only way they can figure it out is by doing it. So if you're not doing something, then try it and see if it works and see what the response is like. So for me, LinkedIn is more my kind of, polished stuff, I might post a few times a week, whereas Twitter, I post quite a few times a day, more real-time information. Instagram is more behind the scenes, kind of me with my bike or, relaxing downtime and so forth. I do try and separate it a lot more now. And hopefully other people have started doing that as well too, because then you can follow people on multiple platforms if you want to, and you're getting different content from different platforms. So hopefully that helps. Any suggestions on that, what you would like to see as a consumer, Ashwin, please do say in the comments. We're interested to know your thought and your feedback. And Carl says, prayer programming for the win. Yes, I paired with Carl on a live stream yesterday, and it was just awesome. I was learning about Nest.js from Carl, and it was just great. We got so many awesome things done. Super exciting. And I believe adding value to a project could be raising a bug. It could be confirming a bug exists, either with the same environment, like browser, node version, whatever it is, or a different version, and saying, well, actually in this version it does or doesn't work. Improving documentation and so much more. You can contribute in so many ways. That's why I kind of don't say code, because it's really not about code. That's how GitHub started, and that's how kind of Git and version control started. But for example, I don't even use the wiki anymore. That doesn't mean I don't document, but my documentation goes in a docs folder in the repo, so it can go through the same process. It can get deployed out to a website. It can go through code review, not only to show that the quality is good, but also for knowledge transfer within people in the community. And I'll show you an example of that shortly as well. Oh, another question. Loving these questions. So we've got Team V. I'm going to abbreviate it to keep it short. I'm terrible at pronouncing names. Many just fear joining a new community, say an open source project. What's a good way to get started, especially opening your first PR is stressful? Any suggestions? I love this question. Just keeping an eye on time as well. Love this question. You're right, it is really scary. That's why I don't want to kind of promote EddieHub too much, so apologies to use them as an example, but I'll use them as a second example. So first example, go to the closed pull request on the project that you want to contribute to. Either it's a project you're aware of, or a project your friends got, or you've searched for issues like good first issues with the label. I can show you how to do that afterwards. But however you get to the repo, go to the closed pull requests, and you'll see two types of closed pull requests. Ones that have been merged, that have a purple icon, and then ones that have been closed, that have a red icon. Go to the ones that have been closed and not merged, so the red icon, and see how they got closed. If they got closed by the author of that pull request, then ignore it, move on. If they've been closed by a project maintainer, check that they were closed in a friendly way. Was it, hey, I'm sorry, but thank you very much for your pull request, but it's not something I want in my project. Have a look at issues 1 and issues 2. There are some good contributions you can get involved in. Then that's fine. But if the project maintainer just closes it without any comment or in an aggressive way, then that's probably not a project you want to contribute to. I know everyone wants to contribute to the big famous projects, React, Kubernetes. Those projects move really fast. By the time you've made your contribution, say it takes a few days, by the time someone reviews it, it takes a few days. That's like a week. By the time you look at the comments and so forth, over a week has gone by and the project has moved forward, maybe by 50 or 100 changes. So you're more likely to get conflicts. By the time you resolve those conflicts, make more changes, another cycle goes through. It's quite stressful. So I would pick a project that goes at the speed that you want. And when you contribute to a project today, tomorrow, etc., doesn't mean next week you have to contribute to the same project. So start off with a project that you either like the technology, you like the speed it goes at, you like the people of the project. And later on, as you get more confident, you can work on other projects that are more challenging, more scary but fun, whatever works for you. So hopefully that answers your question. That's a really good question. I love that. Going back to the EddieHub example, we have that Hacktoberfest project where you can just put your name in the README just to practice the forking, putting your name in and all the rest. Thank you so much, Bond. You won't find an organization as inclusive as EddieHub. Yes, that's what we focus on. And I'm going to talk a bit more about that later on and why we're so inclusive. So open source, yes, is our focus and getting everyone the green squares and so forth. But we do more than that. And it's not because of me, it's because of all of you, the amazing community. Smash, hopefully I pronounced your name right. Yes, don't be scared. And it's GitHub. Nothing can go wrong. Even if you went into a project and deleted all the code, they just won't accept the pull request. So don't worry. Nothing can go wrong. They'll just say, thank you very much. No, goodbye. As long as you feel you're adding value to the project, that's fine. As long as you're not kind of, we had those spams back last October where people just smashed the keyboard and submitted a pull request. That wastes the maintainers' time. But if you're trying to add value, there's a missing step in documentation. The amount of projects that I see missing like a one-liner in their documentation, or they've got commands that, so let's take Node, for example, or JavaScript. In their package JSON, they have, npm run lint or something or run test, but they don't have it as a GitHub action. With a few lines of YAML, you can add so much value to these projects. And trust me, the project maintainers will love you. So that's a really great way to get started. If you need help with that, let me know. But also, and I can show you some examples, but also things like clone the project, step 1, quick start guide, clone the project. So you clone the project. Step 2, npm install. And the amount of people that say, I do this, but it doesn't work. But the maintainers who are creating the project forget the step of, cd into that directory before you do npm install. And that can really help other people get involved in the project, lower the barrier to entry. I hope that answers your question. So, but if I didn't, ask again later on and we'll go into more detail. Okay, so let's continue with what I was thinking. I did have a trail of thought. There is some logic to my madness. Oh, something came up on the screen. I lost it. Okay, that's fine. It'll probably come up in a bit. Here's a question. My whole team consists of high school students. We've been trying to figure out to learn as much as possible, but many times it's above the header and so many recommendations. How to get better? By doing. Just don't worry about making mistakes, just by doing. You can't improve if you don't do it. Like if you went to the gym and you got the best personal trainer, like someone who trains people in the Olympics, and you just watch them over and over again, you won't get better. Yes, you might pick up some things by watching them, but you'll only get better by doing it and getting some feedback and then realizing yourself what can get better. So just do it. Just practice, and you can't do anything wrong. Trust me. Just do it. You've just got to get started. And having your own project is a really great way to learn different skills, because you're going to learn so many different skills. You're going to accelerate your career, because on a proper project, be it a hackathon, be it a company project, be it a client project, you've got to work with different people, have the same skill set, different skill set, and so forth. So being a project maintainer is a really great way to learn, because you're going to have different challenges. And I know what you're thinking, hey, but I'm not ready to become a project maintainer. If you have a public project, for example, you've customized your GitHub profile, then that's a public project and people could contribute to it, make suggestions. On a side note, if you haven't customized your GitHub profile yet, you should do it. It's very easy and you'll immediately stand out from the crowd, even with a basic GitHub profile. So what happens if you've got an open source project and you want to stand out even more? You might want to get the fun vanity metrics, more stars and forks, but you also might want more contributors and improve the project. You're at a hackathon, right? You want your repo to stand out. Well, I have an example project to show you. It's actually a real client project that I do with DataStax, and they're the gold sponsors of DevHacks this weekend. And I'd like you to think of this project as following open source best practices, but as I learn more and more each day and I get feedback from amazing people like you, I'm still making improvements all the time. So let me share my screen. How can we, there's a question here. You're welcome for the insights. I love giving people insights. I do live streaming every Friday, and I even review your open source projects on these live streams and do some coding, and I do videos as well, all on YouTube. So, and as Bond said, create a repo is the same name as your username. Let me show you mine. Let me share my screen and show you mine. So let's have a look. Okay, so hopefully the moderators are able to bring my screen up on the live stream, and then while they're doing that, here we go, perfect. So let me show you first. This is my customized repo. And I didn't do this in one go. Mine's not the best, it's not the worst, but I didn't do this in one go. This has taken months and months. Remember, brushing your teeth, just think of everything like brushing your teeth. So when you first create a repo, it just needs to be the same name. So this repo is the same name as my username. So you can see my username's down here, and I've created a repo. If I click on it, the same name, so it should be exactly the same. Same cases, same spaces, same everything. And then whatever you put in the README will appear on your profile. And when you create it, it puts like a template and a placeholder. Just use that to begin with, and already you're going to be standing out, and you can customize it a little bit at a time, brushing your teeth. So that's how you do that. Right, okay, back to the DataStax repo that I want to talk to you about. So what do you notice? So let me have a look. Let me have a look in the chat and see. And Carla's right. The profile repo is never perfect. I sometimes add more things in, take things out, always tweaking it all the time. Okay. So what I suggest is have a look at this. What do you notice about this repository? If I scroll down a bit, what do you notice? What's the first impressions that you get? I'm going to let you write in the chat. But while you're thinking, just to save on time, what I'm going to say is every feature that is displayed is used. I didn't say I use every feature, but every feature that is displayed is used. So there's no wiki along the top. I don't use the wiki. I do document. You do documentation. It's in the docs folder here. We'll get back to that in a moment. But look, description is used. Link is used. Topics is used. README, license, releases, packages. And I have projects that don't use packages, and I hide the packages. So you can go to settings and hide things, releases, packages, environments that you don't use. And if you ever use them in the future, you can re-enable them. But allow people to focus on what you want them to see. So here's some examples, technologies used. As you can see, if you want to sign up to DataStax, there's a link in the README. And then it have actions badges. I've got screenshots. Screenshots. Why do people forget to put screenshots in the README? I appreciate that it might get out of date soon, but that's where the community can contribute to your project. That's how you can get the more forks and the more stars and so forth. So remember, this is not perfect. It is getting better all the time. Quick start guide and so on. But this is getting a bit big. So what we did, we started a docs folder. So we've got the docs folder, and I've got all the docs in here. And our docs are in a doc, which is like Markdown with a few extra features. But on a GitHub action, I'm going to show those in a moment, just conscious of time, we deploy out to a web page. So you can see, if I go over here, this is the documentation. And this gets all created from those files. So it's pretty awesome. Don't waste your top of your README with big banners, big pictures, or like a page of table of contents. GitHub now has table of contents automatically done for you. So make sure you're using the right formatting with the single hashes, double hashes, and all the rest. Make sure it flows correctly. What else do I want to show you? Everything is automated. Save time. And GitHub Actions is amazing. And we are going to get to those. I keep teasing that with you. We are going to get to those. Use issues. Even if it's just you working on the project, use issues. Look at my fancy labels. There's a GitHub action for that, which literally you can just copy and paste into your repo, and all these labels will just appear. And these labels I didn't create. They are following an open source standard. What else can I show you? So definitely use the issues and labels, even if it's just you working on it. It will allow other people to discover your project because they might search at the top for issues across the GitHub, and they'll search of labels and technologies. But also when companies and clients and other people want to look at your projects, it will look more organized and more professional. And that's really important. This is like your portfolio. And if I go to releases, you can see all these releases. But if you scroll down, if I find a bigger release, let's see, around 5 was a bigger release. Look at this. I've got release 0.5.0. And you can see all the bug fixes that went in. These link to the issues. These link to the commits. All the features that went in. I didn't create this. This was done by a GitHub action. If you notice, we're on 5.1. We put in a bug fix. It went to 5.2. Bug fix 5.3. Feature bumps the next number, so 0.6. It does it all automatically for you, and it's not that hard to do. So if we go to GitHub Actions, let me show you the actions that I have. Actually, you know what? Let me show you the code for the actions. Do ask questions in the chat as well if something isn't clear, but try and automate everything. So let's have a look. Go to GitHub and go to Workflows. If you wanted the labels, for example, you would literally come to this at the end of the page. I won't scroll up anymore. It's the end of the page. 20 lines. Just copy and paste this completely, put it in your repo in the same path, and then it will create the labels for you. It will create these labels for you. it will look so much more professional. No changes, literally just copy and paste that. Some of the others you might need to slightly tweak. So if you've got commands running, for example, like you're running a lint, you can run that on a GitHub action. And these are the triggers. I'm not going to go deep into GitHub actions. I've got videos on this on my YouTube channel. But literally, isn't that much YAML there? Look, this looks like you'd copy and paste it. Maybe the version number might change. You copy and paste that. You copy and paste that. You know what? You might copy and paste the whole lot and it would work. Maybe your commands are slightly different. You might not have a build. You might not have a test yet. But you would have those. So there's just so many there that you can do. Let me show you something else. With your issues, you can use a project board. And a project board looks like Trello. I don't know why people try to organize a project for a hackathon or side project or whatever it is, and they go, yes, we're going to plan our project on Trello. Why? You've got one right here. You can move things across. Hey, that's finished. I put that into in progress or done or in review. You can make the columns that you want. There are templates that you can use. It scrolls across my screen because I've zoomed it a bit bigger so you can read it. Use GitHub discussions. If you're not using discussions, go into settings, turn it off. Same with the wiki. But use GitHub discussions. It doesn't clutter up your issues. GitHub discussions is a great way to talk about an idea, get different threads going. If I pick an example, you can get different threads going and people can reply to those threads. And then from that, you can then create an issue from the discussion. The beauty of that is then you can have the issues for actual action points that someone is going to do and contribute to your project. Again, just keeps it really, really clean. And secret tip, if you go to the Insights tab and go to Community, it will show you what you need to do. Description, tick, README, tick, code of conduct. There are so many people who won't contribute to your project because it doesn't have a code of conduct. And there's a template in GitHub. If I didn't have this here, just like the ad, there'll be an ad there. It'll give you 2 options. You pick one, you put in your email, done. Have it. And then if you ever need to uphold it, which I've never had to do, or enforce it, you've got a reason why you're enforcing it. License, pick one. MIT, keep it open, or another one that works for you. Issue template is really useful. Pull request, again, useful, but not a must. But as you work down the list, start at the top and see if you can get near to the bottom. You can see I need a contributing file still. We've got open pull request for that at the moment. But the pull request is so big, it's taking us so long to go through it. Keep your pull request tiny. I would rather have a 1-line pull request than a 100-line pull request because I can get it merged in quickly, then other people can get involved in that project and so forth. Let's have a look at the chat. What have we got going on? We've got GitHub Actions from the Win, from Avinesh. Awesome. Oh, thank you, DefHacks, for sharing my YouTube channel. That's awesome. Really, really appreciate it. So convenient. All Stars says, I didn't know these were even possible. Thanks. You are more than welcome. And so many people don't know that this is all possible. And this is why I'm so keen to do it and to share it with people. Because I want all of you, because you're here, you want to learn, you want to succeed, you want to collaborate with people. So I want you to stand out. So let's do that. Okay, let me do a closing note and then we're going to dig into your question. And then we can look at any details that you want. So my goal is to help people to get into open source so you can accelerate your career and learn more about GitHub. And I created the EddieHub community that we spoke about, and we focus on being super inclusive and supportive. And let me back that up. Everyone in EddieHub community is a mentee, but everyone is also a mentor. Even if you're 1 week into your coding, tech, testing, whatever you want to be in tech journey, you could mentor someone who is where you were a week ago, and you will learn so much by doing that. We can learn from both sides. Your questions will get so much better when you have people asking you questions, because then you'll realize, well, why didn't they just add that extra information? Why didn't they give context? Secret tip, one of my interview questions is to have a discussion with somebody about my project or their project, and I'll ask them to raise an issue. And if they say, following our discussion, we should do point A, then that's a fail. If they say, following our discussion about, and give a bit of context, quote it with a bit of markdown, you can use the greater than symbol, and then give a bit of context to somebody who wasn't there, or someone like me with terrible memory, when 2-3 days later I won't remember what we talked about, because in that time I've had like 1,000 other conversations. That adds so much value. It includes people who weren't in that conversation. It's really, really important. And you only get better by practicing. And when I interview people, I really can see people who contribute to open source, people who collaborate, collaborate at hackathons because they write and explain things very, very differently. And if you want to grow your community and you want to put out content and you want to get the job that you want and all that good stuff that I spoke about, take a screenshot of this talk today and share it on socials and tag DevHacks and tag me, and we'll like it. But wait, before you do it, if you want to grow even faster, add value to your community, add value to my community, so we reshare it, not just like it, we reshare it, so you get in front of our community, you get in front of our clients, you need to add value. And the way you can do that, include 2 or 3 tips in your post or something you learned today or liked. Then I'll definitely not just like it, but I will reshare it because it adds value to my community that couldn't make this talk. See how it works? It's all about adding value. I hope that helps. I look forward to connecting with you all on LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever social platform is exciting and buzzing at the moment. And I look forward to geeking out with you more and more. So I hope that helps. Let me have a look. devhacks.eddyhub.org. Yes, thank you very much. Hopefully the www at the front works. Let me just quickly test that. I never put that at the front, so I don't know if it works. We're good. It works. We have a mascot as well. Awesome. Question. So let's have a look at the question. Are you doing open source full time? Yes, I've been doing it for years as full time. You probably missed the beginning, but I get paid to do open source. I mean, what's not to like? I get paid to go to hackathons. What's not to like? You can all do it too. So I really, really hope. And remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. If you go and think, right, this week, I'm going to do 1,000 commits. I'm going to get noticed by everybody. It doesn't work like that. It takes time to kind of appear on people's radar, for people to trust you and all the rest. And it's not good for your mental health. You need to balance it out, spread it out. So do go to hackathons, do work hard at them. Make sure you get that downtime and so forth. Like, for example, on Discord, we have a wellness channel where we do try and promote wellness as well as kind of, working hard and getting our daily-ish green square on GitHub. We also have a first-time issue channel where people put issues that you can contribute to projects if it's your first time, and they've got steps on them and they'll help you contribute to their projects. There's loads of free green squares that people don't want. I don't know why people don't want them. It's free green squares, but we do ask people to share them. So if you've got enough green squares for that day, let somebody else get those green squares. I don't understand, Ashwin, good question. I don't understand what a one-liner PR means. Reminds me of Oktoberfest mess. It's about adding value. So, for example, if I go to, Insights, and I go to Community tab, it says I haven't got a contributing file here. So this is actually a true story. Someone said to me, Eddie, I'm going to work on that. I've created an issue, assign it to me. I'm going to work on that. I'm going to spend the next month writing 2 or 3 pages. I'm thinking, no. 1, I don't want to review 2 or 3 pages. So if you want to review 1 page. 2, if you're going to spend a month or 2 months doing it, there's so much value that's missed out in that time that people could get benefit from. So if someone just created that contributing .md file with 1 line and it said, any questions, come and ask in the Eddy Hub Discord. That adds value. I'd merge that like that. If anyone wants to create it now, go create it now. That adds value. And now because the file is there, other people can start adding another line that adds value. It's about value. It's not about quantity. It's about quality. Someone could write, a page of text, but if it doesn't make sense, it's too confusing, there's no value in that. It is about value. So if in that contributing.md file in the repo, someone wrote, any questions, raise a discussion, because we have a discussion tab, and put a link to the discussion tab, that adds value. And so it's about adding value. Yes, the Hacktoberfest mess, people were smashing the keyboard and just deleting lines and renaming Scala to Scale. Is that a new language or something? That's spam. I'm not talking about spamming, I'm talking about value. And value is not about the size of something. Hi Mohit, Avinash, free green squares, everyone. Exactly, I know, right? So many green squares to give away. Hopefully people want them. Awesome. So I'm hoping you all have more questions for me. We've got a bit of time left. I know I kind of ran over, but hopefully it's not too bad because I included your questions as we went along.
Hey Eddie, thanks for the talk. Let's now get into the AMA section. Please, everyone who's interested in asking Eddie questions, please drop them in the chat like you've been doing it. Eddie will be answering them, looking at the chat. And I believe we missed a question
Oh,
earlier.
my
Let me
bad.
just bring that up. Yeah. So, do you prefer Git Bash or GitHub Desktop? That's the question.
I do everything on the command line. For me, I think
Yeah.
do what works for you though. Do what works for you. For me, I use dot files to set up my Mac, my other computers and all the rest, my iMac, my iMac Pro or whatever, or my laptop. So I use dot files that allows me to configure my Git aliases, my SSH keys, my config, everything else. And so for me, being able to do that with it's on my profile, so you can go and have a look at my dot files project. You can see what VS Code extensions I install. To have that all synced across all computers just by running one command really, really helps me. So, but if the GitHub desktop works for you, do what works for you. End of the day, these are tools. We shouldn't get religious about one's better than another. We're there to solve kind of problems and challenges. And if by solving it, by getting your improvements into someone's project, to your company's project, whatever it is using GitHub Desktop, use GitHub Desktop. I have nothing against that. But if you prefer to use the command line for whatever reason, use the command line. I think whatever works is the most important. Don't listen to people that say, oh, you're not a real developer if you don't use the command line. I like the command line. I love it. But I would never say that's better than something else. Just use what works for you.
That was really insightful regarding not getting religious about a particular technology or software. We have a
Thank
couple
you.
of pre-submitted questions. I'm just going to go over them.
Let's do
So,
it.
what are some good qualities programmers who work in a team need to have? So, what are your opinions on this?
Ooh, love that question. You definitely need to be able to communicate and collaborate. Having the right attitude is so important. Really, really is important. When I hire people for my clients, their technical skills is kind of secondary because it's easier to teach the technical skills. If someone needs to do, I don't know, ES6 instead of ES5 for JavaScript, you can teach that. If they know JavaScript and you want to teach them TypeScript, you can teach that. It's more straightforward. If someone has the wrong attitude, they want to kind of hoard issues. Oh, I'll do this one, I'll do this one, they're all mine. And then you block everybody else. That's the wrong attitude. If someone doesn't want to collaborate on a ticket, they're like, no, this is my ticket, it's all mine, then that's not good. If someone doesn't want to learn and understand that they might know a lot, which is great. They need to understand that they're always improving and always learning. I'm still learning every day. These questions are great. They've even helped me learn on how to explain things. Ashwin's question about what's a one-liner PR, I should probably explain that better. So again, I've learned something. And so I think it's important to have the right attitude and to be able to communicate. Practice writing issues. Raise issues for your projects. Share it with somebody and say, does this issue make sense? They might not be familiar with your project, which is great. Another thing I like to do when we get someone new to our open source projects or new to the client projects that might also be open source, but say someone who's paid who comes onto the project, I love to say to them, look at this repo and tell me what it's about. And usually most of the time everyone says, well, aren't you going to give me like a demo, like a 1-day induction on what this repo is? I say, no. Look at this repo. And if you don't understand it, there's nothing wrong with you. There's something wrong with our project. And that's how we improve it for the next person. If they say, well, you said use this, but what is this? Then I think, oh, it's not clear. Let's make that an improvement for the next person. Therefore, it becomes easier and better and lowers the barrier to entry so we can be more inclusive for other people. So yes, those are the really important. Soft skills are actually really hard. So soft skills is a terrible name because they're actually really, really hard skills. I actually think they're harder than the hard skills. Hopefully that makes sense.
That perfectly makes sense. Thank you for that. We have another question from Srinath. Says, what inspired you to start working as an open source developer full time?
Oh, great question. For me, I love doing open source as side projects doing a bit of fun, contributing to other people's projects, hackathon projects, etc., and so forth. And when a client said, "Hey, can we pay you to work on open source projects?" I was like, "Hey, I'm doing it anyway. You might as well get paid for it." So yes. So as I mentioned before, you might have missed it. It's a bit cheesy, but I get paid to do my hobby. I get paid to have fun. I get paid to geek out with all of you. I mean, it's awesome. It is really good. And it's a marathon, not a sprint. It takes time. Like, you couldn't achieve this within a few months. It's taken me years and years. And you've got to think about the long term. People who try to cut corners. I appreciate being efficient is really important, but people who cut corners and, want to, I don't know, people message me and say, hey, Eddie, how can I become a GitHub star in the next 3 months? It's not going to happen. You're going to focus on the wrong thing. If you focus on adding value and getting better, then I didn't even expect to get GitHub Star. I didn't even expect to get GitHub Star of the Year. These were all out of the blue. That's why I'm still shocked now, many months later, because that wasn't my goal. My goal was just to collaborate with the community, to learn and improve myself and improve the community. If I can help, a few people that are here today, I've achieved something for the day, and I'm really happy. And I'll be over the moon if you all, with that information, help somebody else and improve yourselves and so forth. Then, I'm set, because then I can scale more. So, yeah, open source is just awesome, because I believe open source is not just about code, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, thank you for that. We have another question from Team Viswals. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. What's the easiest way to contribute, in your opinion? The one that requires most minimum effort?
Minimum effort is great. Actually, I like hiring lazy developers. I don't mean lazy as in they don't do work, but people who are looking to do the minimum effort. And let me explain. If someone's always, for example, reviewing a pull request, they bring down the pull request locally, they run lint, it fails, they tell the developer, hey, put comments in the pull request, this isn't, inline comment, this didn't conform to our lint, this didn't conform to our lint. That developer is making more work for themselves. It's inefficient, it's a blocker, it's just, super inefficient for everybody, for the person who submitted the PR, to the person who's reviewing it. A lazy developer who wants to do the minimum amount of work will add it to a GitHub action, or at least ask the question, how can we automate this? How can we make this better? Therefore, the person who submits the pull request, the author, can get feedback sooner before other people review it. And therefore, the comments that they get won't be, this isn't formatted correctly. The comments they get will be more valuable comments. And then the same type of developer will think, well, it's getting to a pull request. Why wait for GitHub Actions to run? Maybe we can have something locally as a Git pre-commit hook to run the lint locally before the person commits. Okay, so let's use something like Husky, that when you do a commit, it runs the lint and won't do the commit if it hasn't passed, and will list out the errors. Or even yesterday, I learned from Carl, who's in the chat as well, Eddie, make it even simpler. I'm not saying Carl is a lazy developer at all. I'm just saying efficient. And I think that's really important. Carl works so hard, so much harder than me. But my point is, Carl said to me yesterday, well, when you save in VS Code, why don't you just get it to format your files? I was like, oh yeah, I knew about that, but I completely forgot. There's so much going on in my messed up mind that I completely forgot about that. And so I went, tick the box. And now every time Husky runs the lint locally, it's always green. And when it runs on CI, it's always green. So when I get a comment on our pull request, it adding a lot more value. It's not just talking about formatting and so forth. So minimum effort, see how you can improve the efficiency of a project. And so it's not just about lots of file changes. I have seen in the past people say, oh, I'm not going to raise the pull request yet. It's only got 10 changes. I'm going to wait till I get to 50. What? No, value. One piece of work could be small, could be big, or whatever it is, smaller the better, and adds value. Then we can get it into the project, that other people who use the project, the community, benefit from that straight away. To give you an example, we're talking about Husky right now. So Husky does the pre-commit check. On pre-commit check, you might run a linter, you might run automated tests. And say, for example, it's a bit complicated to set that up. It's not, but let's just say, for example, it is. Then you might think, well, I'm not going to commit this pull request or submit this pull request until I've got the linter running on Husky and the tests running on Husky. Why wait? If you've got the linter running on Husky, commit it, raise the pull request, add value to everybody who's using that project. And then if a day or two later, the automated tests get added to Husky as well, then that adds value later, but you're getting value sooner. And I think that's the important thing. So the minimum effort, look at a project. I would go look at a project. I mean, we could pick one of yours now, and I bet you've got some commands that, run your project, build the project, whatever it is. Maybe you can run that on the GitHub action, just make sure it builds. Maybe you could add some automated tests. as well. And automated tests don't have to be hard. They should be easy, and that's why they get missed a lot of the time. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. I can talk about that quite a lot. If we get time, I'm more than happy to give some actual examples and some repos on the screen. But let's see. I'm sure there's some other questions as well.
Yeah, that was really awesome, Maury. I train of thought of having to be a lazy developer. That was really awesome. Um, yeah, we do have another question, a pre-submitted question.
Sure.
So, what is something that you learned in college that has stuck with you till now? And since because most of our attendees are students, they would love to know. Uh, I know you covered a bit about the management side of things. That is, you got more organized with college. Would you like to share some more things that you learned through college that stuck with you till now?
For me, the collaboration to go into a hackathon after college or university wasn't hard because we had worked on small projects within teams at university. So for me, that really taught me how to. I talk too much, I know I do, but how to get better at listening to people and then finding that balance between different people's ideas. And it's not always about their idea or my idea. I think I went through phases where I'm really excited about this idea. I want to do it no matter what happens. Or other times where I'm like, I'm a bit lazy today, I'm a bit tired. I just go with their idea. Like it's finding that balance. And I think, a lot of the time when I do a live stream or do a YouTube video, it's about starting the conversation. And when I go into a team, be it for uni or college or hackathon, it's about starting the conversation. So you might get into a team, might be a bit quiet, start the conversation because then you've got a starting point and you can all build on that project. I guarantee you, whatever you think of in the first 30 minutes or even hour of that hackathon or that college project, the next day it's going to have changed. Not maybe 100%, but it's going to have evolved. And it only evolves by having that conversation. I think that's really important. When I have a lovely whiteboard on this wall and playing back in the house in the UK, and whenever I have an idea that I want to discuss with someone in my team or Sarah, who's also in my team, I start writing on the whiteboard and I say, right, let's get a tea or a coffee and let's chat about this. And I know that my idea and thoughts are going to change drastically, but change so much for the best because we would have looked at the pros and cons, and they will point out things that I didn't even think about. So like I said, with pairing with Carl yesterday, I just learned so much, and that was amazing. And I really appreciate Carl taking the time to do that. And it's good that Carl had fun and hopefully got a few more GitHub followers as well. But I really appreciated it. Second pair of eyes, the amount of mistakes I made. So my pairing is so efficient. And I think we kind of did pairing at uni without the terminology pairing. And I think that just helped me pair a lot better. But I'm still learning all the time as well.
We have another question in our chat. This will probably be the last question. We're sorry about it since we're running out of time, but feel free to drop it in our Discord, and Eddie will be around to answer it, or join the Eddie Hub uh, Discord, and there obviously Eddie will be there to answer it. So we're going to take up one last question. In major tech companies, it's part of their criteria to employ devs that have contributed to well-known repositories. I don't know any examples, but maybe the Linux kernel. How should I approach this? Shem Sali has this question. I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong.
Good question. So I think this is changing. I think it was used to be kind of, I contributed something to React or Kubernetes and it just might be like a typo fix, which adds value. I did say it adds value, but that's no more valuable than adding to your friend's hackathon project and fixing a typo. So for me, the size of the project adds no value. And I think other people are coming round to that way. For me, it's about the flow, the process, the collaboration. And yes, on some of these bigger projects, there's going to be more automation. But on the project that I've got on screen, it's no React, there's no Kubernetes. Actually, there's not a lot of coding in this project. It's actually more about the setup of the project. But my point is that it's a lot of automation. And so I think it's about understanding the project guidelines and the standards and getting involved and doing it the way the project wants you to do it. So you're kind of not spamming the project, you're adding value. Doesn't mean you can't make suggestions and improvements, but you can't just go in and just steamroll with all your ideas and rewrite the entire project, which I have seen people do that, spend like literally a month and go, hey, I've rewritten all your project. It's like, great, but I didn't want the project rewritten. So, they wasted their time and they wasted your time and so forth. So I think with these bigger projects, people are less likely to do that. So as long as you take the same thoughts and attitude to other projects, I think that's fine. For me, it doesn't hold any more value. If someone said, hey, I've contributed to React or Kubernetes, it doesn't add any more value. If they've added a massive feature, that's very different. But 99.999% of people would not have done that, myself included. So I don't think that's really, really unlikely. So I think it's important to show the collaboration part, and understand the flow. You fork it, you add an upstream to your Git repo, so you can then you work in a branch. You can then fetch the upstream, merge it into your branch, and push it up, so your changes kind of go in a loop. That's more valuable to me than you contributed something to a big project and you deleted your fork. You didn't understand. You didn't use the flow.
Well, thank you for that, Eddie. Yeah. Thank you for such wonderful insights. So unfortunately, we're at the end of the session, and we have another session planned up that is going to start at this exact moment.
Okay.
So I just want to thank Eddie once again for coming to the event and inspiring everyone through your engaging talk and exciting AMA. And also thanks to everyone who tuned in. If you folks missed the past AMA, feel free to check out our YouTube. We upload them to the channel right after the talk. And there is going to be another event going on right now with Josh Starmer, another YouTuber who works with statistics. I would recommend you folks head over there right now. And once again, thank you, Eddie. And see you folks at the Josh Starmer talk. Yep.
Thank you, everyone. It's awesome.